Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 12th, 2020 meeting of the City of Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Ms. Bilderbeck?
Sherry Bilderback, here. Michael Daming,
Here.
Mark Plaza, Rebecca Jacobs, Jeff Moore, Paul Moran, Hart Nelson,
Here.
John Nurnberger, John Ritter, Lisa Schuring, Tom Shipley.
Here.
4 present, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is that a quorum, Ms. Bilderbeck?
I do not believe so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and start the meeting, which we can do. To the extent we need to make any decisions tonight, we'll have to take up our lack of a quorum at that point. But I'm not sure we're going to have many substantive decisions to make tonight. Approval of minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the January 8th, 2020 meeting minutes? And I believe this may be one of those decisions that we probably need to table. So the chair will entertain a motion to table approval of those minutes.
Motion to table approval of the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The chair also notes that there's an item under old business this evening that is probably more suitable under new business. So can we have a motion to amend the agenda to place that item under new business?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Nothing under old business.
I voted aye.
We have one item under new business, thank you, Ms. Bilderbeck, which is an application for a site plan for an addition to an existing building and modifications to parking areas at 2201 South Brentwood Boulevard. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative here?
Yes, sir.
Will you please step forward, sir, and introduce yourself and your application?
Hi. My name is Daniel Joseph. I am one of the owners of the property that is being brought forth. And I am a physician. I provide retina care to a large population of patients, mostly our parents, aunts and uncles, the next generation. And we purchased this property with the hopes of combining 2 other previous sites that we have further down Brentwood in Richmond Heights. We had an administrative office across from REI in the center, I think it was the Center 40 building, or the white building, which is was our administrative office, and we have a clinical office down at the boulevard above the Crate and Barrel. And you can see our sign when you drive down. And so what we have wanted to do is combine those 2 offices into one property, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to improve that part of Brentwood in all manners of shapes and sizes. And these 2 gentlemen are way more versed than I am at explaining how we're going to do that. And I thank you for allowing our petition.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Paul Boyer. I'm with Civil Engineering Design Consultants. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. What I'll do is I'll run through the existing site and the proposed development really quickly, and then I can turn over Rob Laps here with Chiodini as well. He had done some of the landscaping for it. So that's the existing site currently. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the site. It's 1.3 acres. It's located on the west side of Brentwood Boulevard, just north of here. It's bounded by Moritz to the north and Bridgeport to the south. It's actually comprised of 5 lots. 3 lots front on Brentwood. They're all zoned PD. There's a 4th lot on Bridgeport that's a vacant lot that's also zoned PD. And then the 5th lot that fronts on Moritz to the north is it's currently a parking lot, but it's zoned B, single-family residential. What we're doing as part of this development, there's 4 buildings. The building at the northeast corner is going to be utilized in place. It's a 2-story building. It'll be renovated. Actually, the Retina Institute occupied that building, I think the end of last year, the beginning of this year. So they're currently in that building. The 3 buildings to the south of it will be demolished. And then the parking lot, which is somewhat disjointed, it's not connected all the way through, that will be demolished and replaced as well. There's 2 access points on the Brentwood. Those will be removed and replaced with a right-in, right-out. Then there's a full access on Moritz to the north, which will be removed and replaced. Also, a full access on Bridgeport, which will be removed and replaced. Is it okay if I stand here?
Sure. No, that's fine.
So, can you see this okay?
Yeah.
Yep, I move around too.
Okay.
Sweetheart.
Yep. No, no.
So there's an existing retaining wall that runs through the property here. We'll be replacing that. It's a tie wall. It's in bad shape coming down. So we're going to come in with a burst lock wall and replace that. As I mentioned, we'll do a right-in, right-out entrance. We've submitted, this is county road, county jurisdiction. I don't have official approval from them. I talked to them before the meeting, and they are okay with this entrance. Then we have, we're replacing the existing entrance here with a full access entrance. Same here, we're having a full access entrance here. The existing entrance is here. We're actually putting a new entrance here. We're correcting a lot of things that are wrong with the existing site from the standpoint of there's vehicles that are backing up, that park in and back up out onto Bridgeport Avenue. There's the disjointed parking that I mentioned and the multiple access points on the Brentwood. So a lot of that will be corrected and fixed. There's also a retaining wall which runs through the property, so it's really kind of not continuous with this development. So we're coming in with this development. We're going to have, we'll have permeable pavement to mitigate the stormwater, so we'll have that on site. You can see the green space we have here adjacent to the retaining wall. And then also, and we coincidentally talked with some of the residents before the meeting, but I understand currently the drainage pattern for the site, everything falls from Brentwood and drains west. And there are no storm sewers on the site. Everything sheet drains off. So actually, as part of this development, we're extending sewers up to the property. These will be public sewers for MSD. Same here, we're running a public sewer up on Bridgeport. So all the storm water is going to be collected and discharged into the sewer. So I think it'll alleviate, if we're having problems, they should be alleviated. This existing building is being renovated. As I mentioned, the Red Institute is a 2-story building. They'll have their administrative functions on the upper floor, and then they're going to rehab the lower level and also do a building addition. And they'll serve the patients or clientele on the lower level. This is actually going to be the main entry to the building now at the southwest corner of the building. So there's an existing access here, but the grades are significant coming up if you're familiar with this. So this will be the main entry here. We'll have the ADA spots here. There'll also be an elevator in the building as well. So from an ADA perspective, they can get in the lower level and the upper level. And all one continuous parking field in this development will be able to access the building itself. I believe that's it from an overall site development standpoint. I'd be happy to turn over to Rob if you have questions regarding landscaping.
Okay, Mr. Lapp, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not much. I looked at your comments that Mr. Frankie got submitted, did make some changes. I think Lisa sent those out to you guys just
At
now.
the end of the day, so
Yeah,
I think
they're- most of the comments, I think by 95% of them.
Would
have
you
been-
speak up a little bit?
I'm sorry. The comments I got back from Mr. Frankie, I've incorporated those in this revised site plan. So everything should be pretty close to what he would recommend and requested. We've been over planted a lot of these places just to add a better buffer between here and the residential section to the west. We do and have added some pedestrian benches along Brentwood, and it's actually some picnic tables along this almost like park-like buffer for people to use, especially for like employees for lunch breaks and things like that, or smoke breaks, and that kind of thing. Otherwise, that's about all I have. I haven't done my recalculation of number of plants, but I've added more from the first time I've done this project. So actually, we're at a surplus of more plants than we had initially, which I think is a good thing, and more green. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kirkemeyer, staff report.
So I'll try to just fill in maybe some details that weren't covered already. There was a traffic access and parking sufficiency assessment that was done by CBB for this project. So the traffic study, it was determined current traffic levels will not impede traffic traveling to and from the proposed site, will not block the site's access drives, and internal site circulation is expected to operate acceptably. The CBB review indicated no issues with just the right-in, right-out only turn on South Brentwood Boulevard. In fact, as it was noted, there's actually going to be one curb cut from Brentwood Boulevard eliminated, which will probably make St. Louis County Department of Transportation, who has jurisdiction over Brentwood, pretty happy about that, I would suppose. So again, we are still kind of waiting, though, for that final confirmation from St. Louis County DOT that that access will work. But to that point, then, I would say that the one recommendation that came out of the traffic study was for those cars traveling South Brentwood Boulevard and traveling southbound, again, it's going to be a right-in only. So it was recommended in the traffic study to anybody that's traveling southbound, as they make their right into the development, to continue on and not try to make a left turn immediately at that first drive aisle. That potentially could maybe, you know, queue or back up some traffic along South Brentwood Boulevard. Again, the traffic is going to be minimal, but just to make sure we can avoid that, that will be signed then that they have to continue on, and that's already been a revision to the plan. So that was taken, that's been taken care of as well. Again, they've been kind of in front of this project from the get-go, so they already have the traffic and parking addressed. They had the landscape review done. As we stated already, the review or the responses came back from the applicant this afternoon. So it was noted that these revisions have been made to the plan. I haven't again looked at that this afternoon, but staff will go ahead and review and just make sure those changes have been incorporated into the document. The parking supply is good. Again, according to code, we would have to have 5 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of medical or office area, and that would compute to requiring 64 stalls, of which there are 82 parking stalls represented on the site development plan. 15 of those are compact spaces, but as I've been noting, that is pretty common for medical complexes to have compact spaces. So even if you subtracted, though, those compact spaces, the development still meets the city's parking requirements. So I think we're good there. And the last thing probably I don't think was mentioned was just the overall site coverage for the development. To lay this out, the site coverage computes to 71.5%, and the planned development district allows a maximum coverage of 65%, but there is a provision in the code that does allow a bonus coverage of an additional 15% if they can list what they are doing for some other type of site development plan enhancements or extra landscaping, which those again were covered in their responses. Here. I know they had a list here of some things. Yes, what they had in their responses, overplanted the buffer at the south parking lot, benches along Brentwood Boulevard and Bridgeport Avenue for pedestrian use. They're going to have the decorative retaining walls to add elevation and interest. Picnic tables are planned on the west buffer of the south parking lot for employees to have lunch and et cetera outside. So I think, again, those probably meet some of the qualification or the qualifying criteria to have that bonus coverage. I think otherwise between all the presentations it was covered. So.
Thank you, Ms. Kirkmeyer. Commission will note that this review is it's unusual for us in that we don't have any elevations. We're not looking at the building, we're just looking at the footprint this evening. And is that, what is the thought of the applicant in that regard? Because generally we take these together. What is the timeline on construction, understanding that the commission is going to have to look at the elevations in the building? What is the timeline on that?
It'll be a 2-phase project, since the building's already occupied by his staff. That will do phase 1 will be the lower south block. We need to keep the current west block for his employees park currently. When that south lot is complete, then they can shift over to start parking in the south, and that's when we'd start the addition and the work on the west lot. As far as the actual month time frame, as far as when that will start, I know that once it's very eager to get started right away on phase one, and phase two will follow immediately after phase one is complete. I don't know the exact time frame of that, it depends on contractors and things like that as well. We're in the process of getting that two-story addition design. It's not yet designed, and they've got to work out kind of the cosmetic items to the existing building to get all of these. That'll be up to you, and in front of you as soon as we get it done.
Okay, we have our landscape architect, Mr. Frankie, that has put together a detailed report. The applicant has addressed some of the concerns, but Mr. Frankie, can you step up and just briefly summarize your report, and most importantly, which of your recommendations are still outstanding that you don't note to have been incorporated within their changes?
Thank you. I haven't seen the comments, so I don't really know what he's addressed. Just in summary, a lot of our comments were kind of, they're pretty detailed and kind of record keeping. One is typical that we see a lot, and that is that there has to be some notes about an irrigation system because they're required, so I'm sure that the applicants probably addressed that. We had made a comment about a temporary construction easement, and Lisa did share with me that they think their contractor can kind of work on the high side of the retaining wall. I'm still unclear, and maybe Paul can help me understand this. I think I understand that the new proposed retaining wall is going right up against the property line on Moritz. Is that correct?
It's 18 inches off.
18 inches off. So that's going to, right now, I think the property owner's kind of encroaching on the petitioner's property, and so it's going to be right up on their property now. Just a note, because right now they've got a fence, and the way the fence and the walls are constructed, they've kind of taken over part of the property, and it seems like it's their backyard. That's just when they build a wall, it's going to be right on there. The other comment that we made that I'm not unsure how will be addressed is the interior parking lot on that north parking lot. The end islands were narrow and didn't meet the requirement, the size requirement, and those are right here and right here. They were smaller than what the ordinance typically requires. I don't know if you guys have addressed that or what your response is on that as well.
I don't recall. I know we had a meeting with staff in the city early on.
I can comment on that after you
Okay.
go through the rest of
The rest of the comments are, again, just kind of record keeping with plants and making sure everything's clear. We did make a comment about there was a minor bit of light spillover on the south property, about half a foot candle right on the property edge on that as well. We just noted that. We had a concern about the mid-block crossing. When you go out on the site and you walk, there's a very restricted view as you look for oncoming traffic in this direction, and it's made worse by the fact that the vertical curve on Brentwood Boulevard makes it seem like cars kind of disappear and kind of pop up quickly. I don't think it's within the realm of the petitioner to regrade Brentwood Boulevard. It's just kind of a condition that exists. For us, the mid-block crossing or the mid-block entrance is a little bit problematic because I know the city has a goal of trying to eliminate as many crossings as they can, and the petitioner did eliminate one mid-block cross or entrance that was there. It's just with access on both the north and the south, it just seemed a little, why a third entrance in and out? But we are also aware that, people like to be able to drive right in when they see the building, and I suspect that's probably the issue. So I think that's the summary of our review of the property.
Okay. Do we know whether Mr. Frankie's concern about the light spillover was addressed?
We modified that. We actually moved one of the heads from the outside perimeter of this lot, as the main spillover was, to this island and located it around. and we have a new photometric calculation. And I think we have less than, we have 2 or less foot candles across the entire perimeter, and maybe 1 at most going across the whole perimeter of the property. So that changed this whole scheme from being this way to this way. It's linking the coverage of the parking lot, without having to spill over into the neighboring properties.
That's exactly what we were thinking they would
Good.
do, so I think that's,
Very good.
that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Frankie. Is CVB here tonight? Very good. If you please step forward, sir, and have you had a chance to look at their responses to your report?
Yeah, Lisa sent them to me earlier today. We kind of had a few minor concerns. One of them, like I was saying earlier here, we really don't want people to try to turn in here and try to eliminate any sort of queuing and congestion and slowage onto Brentwood Boulevard. So they put a no left turn sign in here so people are supposed to go
Good.
around there. So that addressed the access concern. They're adequate on parking, as Lisa said. The other concern that we had was if they were going to use the front door, getting ADA accessibility to the front door and people to there very easily would be great at the site, sloping down this way. They came back and have their main entrance for all of their customers as well as through this door down here with an elevator and ADA accessibility there. So they pretty much addressed the concerns we had related to traffic and parking.
I see that there's a couple notations in your report to site distance concerns, and the applicant indicates they're still waiting from St. Louis County.
Yeah, and they, on the revised plans they sent over today, had some site distance lines showing basically a vehicle sitting here at the exit and getting the 335 feet of site distance for making the right turn out of there. So they've gone through that measure and checked it against the grades and everything, and they can meet it. So the county will take that and approve that access. And again, like they were saying, they've got an access here and an access here. And Paul had mentioned that you've got some parking right now that kind of angles in this way, and you got to kind of back out close to Brentwood here. Same thing over here. You got some angled in parking that you back out onto the road right now. So a lot of those parking and backing issues related to the parking would now be internal to the site.
So any lingering concerns from your perspective?
No, I believe they've addressed it in the revised plan they sent over today.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, so it appears that we still, we had the applicant's responses late this afternoon. I want to make sure the commission has the opportunity to look at those. I want to make sure staff has the opportunity to look at those. I want to make sure Mr. Frankie has an opportunity to look at how they've addressed these issues. And perhaps most notably, we don't even have a quorum to do anything tonight. So I think we'll be looking to probably bump this out to the next meeting in March. But how about if we hear from some residents here? Are there any? Let's hear from the, yeah, definitely. Are there any residents here that would like to address the commission? Will you please step forward, sir? Name and address, if you could.
Pat King. I live at 8821 Bridgeport, third house down on the Bridgeport side. I'd kind of like to understand better how you're going to replace that rotten railroad tie wall that forms the side of that west side of the north part of the parking lot and the south side of the north part of the parking lot.
Will you please
For
step
drainage.
forward?
For drainage.
Any other questions, sir?
Yes. There is an entrance off of Bridgeport into the parking lot.
Yes.
I'll caution you that Enterprise, they park all down our street. They're going to take some of your parking spaces. Enterprise customers are going to go in that lot and use spaces. So you're going to need to you're going to lose a few spots if they come in and take some of your spots. So.
I appreciate that.
Well, hang on. Mr. King, if you could finish your questions, and we'll get Mr. Boyer up to the mic.
Okay. I don't know about the lighting. I might talk to you guys after the meeting about how much lights there's going to be. Which is there was one residential lot you said you're taking over and you're converting it to commercial. Which one is that? Which lot?
This is
Could you stand so that we can see you, please?
there's 5 lots, so there's one here, this is a vacant lot, so that's zone PD, there's a lot here, a lot here, a lot here, and then there's a lot here. This is zone B, single family. where the
Okay.
existing parking lot is.
Where the existing lot is, okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Boyer, can you, if you would step up to the mic and address his other issues?
So as far as the retaining wall, he's right. There's a tie retaining wall that runs along the west, on the north half of the site. It runs along the west and south side where the sawtooth is. The tie wall is in pretty rough shape. So we're taking that wall out completely, and that's the wall we're replacing with the Verslock wall. So it's going to be 18 inches back. And that the concern that was brought up, rightfully so, was, what's the constructability of this without getting on the adjoining property? We work with a ton of retaining wall designers and builders, and I called them, talked with them, and explained the situation. And they said it's not as efficient, but they absolutely can work from the back of the wall and build it up. They'll stack it and build it up and backfill as they build it up, so it's not a problem. They just said they do it all the time because they're always working within constraints. So that's not an issue. From a drainage standpoint, what we're going to do is the parking lot's going to have curbing all the way around it with the storm inlets. So everything that you see on the site is virtually going to be captured, discharged into an inlet, and then piped down the street rather than sheet flowing off the property as it currently does. So I can completely 100% confirm that the stormwater is going to be dramatically improved on the site.
Is stormwater a problem right now, Mr. King?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Steven's just west of the north part of the parking lot, and I'm right behind Steven.
Very good. If you want to talk to Mr. Boyer after the meeting, I'm sure he'll show you some information about the design of the new Versalock wall. Anyone else who would like to address the commission? Yes, sir. Please step forward to the microphone.
My name is Siva Avaru, resident of 8820 Moritz. So one of my concerns is most of the green space that is currently running adjacent to the residential properties. I'll just walk up here so it's easier for people to view. But currently, the way I understand it, this house is unoccupied right now, correct? There's not a current occupant. So this green space right now is providing, visibility, really no privacy to non-occupied houses. Now my house right here, the way the current green space is structured in the current lot and what you guys are proposing, there's still a significant lack of privacy between our house and the commercial property. And from my understanding with St. Louis and St. Louis County Code, when you are constructing green space, about 15 to 25%, depending on the square footage, should be amongst the primary areas where there is occupancy to residential properties. So right now, the majority of your green space that you are proposing isn't really shielding necessary privacy from the areas that actually do have occupant residences, which would be my property, Mr. King's property, and this is currently a rental property. And it also sounded like through your statistics, you guys currently satisfy the parking lot measures, utilizing about, 5% per 1,000 square feet or so. You have about 20 spaces to give or take for the occupation limits for your property. I would just propose looking into somehow increasing the green space, at least through my property and Mr. King's property, so we could at least shield some of the noise and some of the daytime activities that might go on. And also, we face a significant amount of water runoff to the point where our backyard is unusable right now. It becomes a pretty big swamp. And I do have concerns with how you guys are going to construct that because we have 3 dogs right now. Currently, the property is enclosed. So if you guys are, going to start construction, which I heard from one of the owners that, temporary construction is going to start next week, how is that going to work? Because right now, that current retaining wall and fence is our 4th wall, so to speak, from not allowing our dogs to run out of the yard. And if we lose that during however long this construction is going to be, we essentially lose one of the selling points that we bought the house to begin with. And so that, and yeah, since that area does slope, I just implore you, when you guys are looking towards drainage, it does create a river down my property and into his property, to the point where he's had to install a sump pump just to mitigate the effects of the current water runoff. And I've only been living there for a year, so I've only experienced 1 year's worth of water runoff, and it's pretty significant and damaging to the point where our asphalt and our backyard and all that stuff is unusable. And then that entrance right there on that's coming off of Brentwood and off of Moritz. So here, this property right here is a mobile station. Already it's a really hard intersection to get in and out with traffic. If you're coming up north on Brentwood, you oftentimes have vehicles just sitting idle here trying to get in. You have the cars that are coming north and southbound into the mobile station. They're also occupying this median lane. If you have people also trying to come in this way, you're going to have people also occupying this median lane as well. Well, I guess no, that's not going to work because of that. But I urge you to kind of reconsider this median, because you're going to start having a lot more traffic building up in the middle of a pretty busy Brentwood street. I don't know, that's all I know. Street personality. That's pretty much it. And then, yeah, lighting too, I'll let you see more about the lighting.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Boyer, Mr. Lapp, you have your neighbors here. If you could please address their concerns about separation and stormwater.
So as far as let me just, it's easier up here. As far as again, I'll just reiterate on the stormwater is not going to be an issue. Everything with the curbing all over the property, everything's going to be captured, discharged to pipes, and then routed down to the inlet. So stormwater is not going to be an issue. From the privacy standpoint, we also have a site-proof fence. So we have a retaining wall line. So the retaining wall starts roughly at 1 foot height here to approximately like 3 feet here, and it gradually gets taller all the way down to here. At this highest point, it's roughly 9 feet or so. And then there's going to be a site-proof fence on top of this wall all the way down, actually all the way down, turning it. So the grades on this site, on our site, are higher than the surrounding grades. Just to give you, for instance, we're at 511 here. We're 492 here, so we're 19 feet lower here. We're 501 here, so we're 10 feet lower. And this is actually all the way down at 495. So the parking lot is at 500 and 495. So you have a 5-foot wall and a site-proof fence on top. So the privacy will certainly be there. I understand the concern with the dogs, and when this retaining wall goes down. So then what we can do is, the contractor, we can do a temporary fence, obviously, when that wall's going down, and set that up so the lot is contained. That's not a problem. From a lighting standpoint, and we can go over that in more detail after the meeting, but I think there's 2 light standards in this parking lot. There's 2 light standards in this parking lot. The light standards are 16 foot tall, and as Rob indicated, we've modified the location so that the foot candles are minimums at the property lines.
Oh, very good. Yeah, so similar to the last one, if you could show him the type of wall that he can expect to see there, I'm sure that would be appreciated.
Yeah, well, I can talk
after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mr. Boyer. Any other resident that would like to address the commission? Ms. Smith, please step forward.
I'm Karen Smith. I'm on Harrison. Is it possible to get copies of any of this or see it online?
Of course.
The layout, and then will there be other meetings where you'll talk about like what the fencing and the screening that you just described would be reviewed, and ability for comments on those sorts of things, and all the other materials? I think you said something like the elevations. You haven't seen those yet. I didn't know if there's any. Sorry, I was a little late, so I don't know if there was other things that you reviewed, but like that. If there's more information about what's going on that property.
type of fence, do we have that, the Bristol fence in our materials? Do we have the fencing materials in our packet? We have all that in our materials? Okay. Okay. Well, it'd be nice to have, and your neighbors would like to see that even more so. So, yeah, only the footprint is being requested. for
Modified, there's
approval.
no changes to the building itself. Right.
Well, no, they addressed that earlier. They are adding a 2,400 square foot addition to the,
Okay,
The little yellow block there on the site plan, that's the addition.
okay.
but that's not before us tonight, correct?
Oh.
Yep.
But that will come back?
Correct.
Okay. Well, just anything that you can share so we can start getting familiar with the project would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen who would like to address the commission? Okay, yes, ma'am, please step forward. Name and address.
Hi, my name is Lynn Good. I live at 8783 Brentwood Place, so I'm on the opposite side of the street. So that center turn lane that you mentioned, I beg to differ with some of the traffic studies that have been done on Brentwood Boulevard. I think you have to be there. In other words, you have to live there to kind of see how tricky it is getting in and out of those streets and using that center turn lane. Example, if I'm coming from the north and trying to turn left onto Brentwood Place, oftentimes I get in that center lane and try to avoid people that are stacked up trying to get into Mobile. A little bit south of there, on the opposite side, if someone is, and they want to go to Moritz, if they're coming the opposite direction of me and they want to go to Moritz, we're both trying to get into that center turn lane at the same time. It is dangerous. And I'm concerned that that's only going to get worse with the traffic, and I would really like that to be considered. Everyone that I give directions to my house that comes from Highway 40 and is going to turn in that center turn lane to turn left onto my street, I tell them be very careful when you get into that center turn lane, because somebody could be coming the other direction getting in that lane because they're going to go the opposite way. It's very, very tricky, and it is a very congested site many times of the day, especially daytime when people will be using a doctor's office.
Thank you, Ms. Good. Yeah, Mr. Traffic Engineer, do you feel like you can address that concern?
Yeah, so we did observations out there, and eliminating left turns along Brentwood, they're doing the best job they can by eliminating those two access points to the site that front Brentwood, and eliminating it to right in, right out, so you only have those right turn movements. The public streets are there. Unfortunately, without some drastic redevelopment of the whole area, you're not going to be able to change the alignments of the public streets. So unfortunately, it is a condition that's there. I think this condition addresses the left turns to the site as best as it can.
The right in, right out.
So,
Gets rid of the curb cut.
yeah, they're doing the best that they can. So,
All right, thank you. Any other resident like to address the commission? Questions from commissioners? Ms. Bilderback?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the lighting, you mentioned standards. One of the things that we had done was and I don't know, it could be in the packet, I just missed it, like what it looks like. One of the things that we've done with some of the other properties that come up against residential properties on Brentwood Boulevard is to, if you look, for example, like at the West Community parking lot, where they were lower lights, like there was more of them, but they were lower, so they weren't necessarily, I mean, I know there's the whole foot candles thing, and that's like the gold standard generally as far as how these things go, but then there's still the idea that, you're sitting in your house and you're looking at a big light, right? And the smaller ones seem to work very well and still provide plenty of light for safety, while also being more visually appealing as far as to residential neighborhoods that they butt up against. So I wanted to throw that out for something maybe that you might consider, and maybe have some more information or direct me at the right place, presuming we go to site plan, that we can talk about this a little bit more, like in the information you submitted. Also, the information that you gave, I was going to ask about that as far as the fencing, so that'll be great to have that additional information. I totally understand what you're saying about the elevation changes, and I think that retaining wall with the fence will provide a good buffer. And I've lived backed up to commercial property, so like I get how this works. Also, two things, and one of which was sort of glossed over, and I don't know that anybody really understands this, but I do understand it. And the other is the actual thing that you're doing with the storm sewers. That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, and I can understand why residents would be really concerned given the situation that they've got right now with the water, and I get it. I mean, that's like a big deal. The changes that you guys are talking about doing will make a huge difference, and I think that's to be commended. That, you know, I know MSD has rules and there's different things like this, but still that you guys are doing all that, I think is going to be incredibly helpful. The thing that I don't think people really understand are permeable pavers. I know what that is, and it's really cool that you're using it. And I think it might be helpful for the benefit of the neighbors if you might just spend a moment to explain to them the benefits of the permeable pavers and what that means relative to stormwater.
No.
Yes, please.
Yeah, what, okay, yeah. Certainly, we want to encourage discourse after the meeting
Right.
to address as many concerns, but very briefly.
So we have permeable pavement on site, and what that means is it addresses not only the area, the permeable pavement basically is permeable pavers where the water drains in, infiltrates down through a gravel bed, and it promotes infiltration into the ground. If it continues to rain, there's an under drain underneath that pavement, but there's a very deep gravel bed, it's almost like underground storage. And it not only addresses the rain that falls on it, but any impervious areas upstream of it that drain onto that permeable pavement go down into that detention. So it actually, the reason why MSD likes it and promotes it is it takes a lot of the water out of their system because it's promoting infiltration. So we have incorporated that into this site design.
I have one other question on that. So they're permeable pavers in a section, or is the whole lot permeable asphalt?
We only do it in the parking stall areas because the durability of permeable pavers is not as good as standard.
Right.
So we put it in the areas that are not in the main travel roads.
I have a friend in the asphalt business, and he hates permeable asphalt.
Permeable asphalt is horrible.
Because it clogs up. It's good for 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, we don't, permeable pavement, these are permeable pavers.
Great.
They look fantastic. And the nice thing about it is if there is a localized problem, you can pop out the paver, recompact it, put it back in. Yeah, permeable asphalt, typically nobody specs that.
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just a real quick question about coverage. I understand it's going to be 71.5%, Ms. Korkmeyer. 65 lot. What is it now? Is this an increase from what the current coverage is?
It's roughly the same. It's roughly the same. We're actually having a slight decrease in runoff with this new development. It's almost exactly the same.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anyone else on the commission have any further questions?
Nope.
Anyone else from the audience like to say anything else? Okay, Commission, we do not have a quorum this evening. We have a very limited scope of review, but even if we wanted to make a decision tonight, we do not have the ability to do so. My thought would be that we could allow staff, allow our experts to look at these issues and take this up at the March meeting and not necessarily need to have a site plan meeting. Is there any objection to that?
Nope.
Can I just throw something in for the record?
Yep.
I've been a commissioner for several years. It's the first time this has happened. So our apologies if we don't have quorum.
Yeah, actually, right.
Well, I would also say it's the first time that I recall us approving a footprint rather than elevations as well. So it's kind of a unique application.
I won't say how long I've been on the commission. It's the first time it's ever happened.
Doing a footprint?
Actually, either one. Either one of the two things, not having a quorum or not having, and I've been on the commission like.
Okay. Well, very good. Is there any objection to tabling this item to the March 11th meeting? All right, seeing none. And as stated earlier, we encourage neighbors, applicant to please get together and let's get everybody on the same page. Let's get this development off on the good foot. You guys are going to be neighbors living next to each other for the foreseeable future, so let's make each other happy. Okay, no items, no other items under new business. Aldermanic report, I see no alderman.
No quorum.
City planners report, Ms. Kirkemeyer.
No report.
We've decided we're going to table it to the March meeting. Rationale, we have none. Any other business this evening? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Stand adjourned. Thank you.
Any opposed can stay here then, so.